Okay, warming up, and boom, according to that, I am live. Welcome, this is Tokyo Tonight. My name is Hiko Simon. It is 10:30 p.m. Japan Standard Time, Sunday night, as it always is whenever I do the show. I hope everybody is well. Great to see so many people already rocking in, including the man from Kyiv. We've got Yuri the Best in here first. Well done. In there before me, Mage Goes X. Good day. Good to have you in here, Mage Goes X. Nice to have you in the comments. We've got Quint Rankit. You don't care for XL, but that stuff was cool too. Yeah. I was just sharing earlier on Twitter something. Actually, that was shared with me. I mean, two things. I had somebody asking me how you'd use it. I've been continuing to play with ChatGPT. I've got another topic on it tonight, but somebody shared a link where it wasn't actually ChatGPT. It was GPT-3 integrated into Excel. And it just showed exactly what I guessed you would be able to do if you integrated it, which is that whenever you want to do something really tricky or clever, like making a Visual Basic macro or even like a complicated function, I just tried a few tests myself of things that I like to do. I like to use Excel like a database. And yeah, you can do really convoluted queries to do clever things. And yeah, you just ask it in a natural way. Hey, look at all the data in column A and just give me, all of the entries, pick out the number of entries that have this, thing that I type here. Stuff like that. Just do like a lookup. It gives you the functions like straight away, and it's easy to adjust. It explains what it's doing. It's a wonderful tool for, I think, anything to do with like coding. Anything that's relatively logical and straightforward like that, it's pretty good for. And I've been having fun playing with it. So yes, indeed, Quint Rankit. We've got Odie Jr. in here. Bada bing, bada boom, boom icon. Good to see you. I feel like dropping in my special custom boom icon myself. If that's available, there it is. Into there. It's kind of funny. I don't cough all day, but then I start talking on this. I always get a little bit, I guess I'm not used to just talking nonstop like this. It is cold here at the moment and dry. It's like 29% humidity, and I've got the heaters on. Do you feel like -3 overnight on Wednesday? We're going to have a real cold snap. We have a bit of Siberian wind coming up. Also, yeah, just from my end as well in terms of life updates. Well, maybe two things. One, there was a great little meetup. It was perfect. Actually, I'll talk about that. That's going to be in the topics for tonight. In terms of my plans for going to America, it really comes down to my... yes, I'm going to go get the visa stuff sorted out, which I guess I should find out about, hopefully on January 30th, with the goal being to move as soon as possible after that. So I guess the last regular show at this time slot for a while, all going to plan, is going to be on February 5th. I may, in fact, travel even before that, so we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I will continue doing this every Sunday. It'll just be a different time zone, so I'll have to adjust. It might not be so easy for people used to joining at this time. Since this time at the moment, looking at my clock for Seattle, it is 5:30 a.m. right now. I'm not going to wake up at 5:30 a.m. in Seattle to do this, but we'll do something. It might be a few hours. It might be, yes, 12 hours different. We'll see what happens. But yeah, hoping that all goes well anyway, and I am definitely looking forward to that. Oh, how do I go back to regular chat here? Keyboard, there we go. So yeah, Ada Void, excellent to see you. Good morning, Arizona. We've got Ada, great to see you the other day. Might be snow on Tuesday, they say, although it looks like it won't be proper snow, maybe just like flurries in the middle of the night, not like settling on the ground, but it'll be cold enough. We'll certainly see what happens. Quinn Rankid, find out about visas. If only there was an AI that could help, indeed. Yeah, unfortunately, the US immigration service works. Well, actually, you can do a hell of a lot online, but that said, there's still a huge amount of paperwork, and there is an in-person interview. So, it still is perhaps for the best, some human factors in there. So we'll see how that goes. But yes, Yuri the Best. You watched Star Trek as a kid, and their people would go, computer, create an image of an alien in a room, yada yada, make him taller. Then it seemed far off and unrealistic. Yeah, it's here. I mean, literally I think it was the movie Star Trek 4. It still is just classic of that movie, the one where they rescue the whales. It's not much of a movie, honestly, but there's one movie the Star Trek crew travel back in time, and they go and invent the acrylic tank basically to hold a whale that they have to carry back to the future. And Scotty has to operate a 1990s computer, so he immediately picks up the mouse and says, "Hello, computer." And you know, I think everyone thought when they got Alexa that's what we're doing that now. But I really think that's actually kind of what we're about to get now. You know, it's what it's already. And you know, talking's kind of a hassle as well. I like typing, but yeah, indeed, I think we're getting close to that. Kerberos Tenchi, excellent to see you. Transparent. That's right, transparent aluminum, as Americans would say, aluminium, as we say in. Although yes, in terms of the more correct English versus American English, I've pretty much given up, mainly because on Twitter, American English spelling uses fewer characters, and Japanese think that American English is standard, and it is, I suppose, in the context of the world. So I've given up trying to explain that my different spelling is also correct. But yeah, that's a thing. Actually, I just realized I was going through the topics trying to pick out a title earlier on. Got a few topics tonight. It should be, yeah, it should be interesting. Kerberos Tenchi, you mean see-through aluminium, which is actually reality. Ado, just being an illegal immigrant. Yeah, I'm not. Well, I'm not going to do that. You can go there on short work trips and so on, obviously, without having to get a special visa. But for proper lengths of time, yes, as a Japanese citizen, Ado, you know, of course, has to be kind of a celebrity. One of I guess, a growing but small village of naturalized Americans who are Japanese. Oh, sorry, naturalized Japanese of American origin. Yeah, good to have you in the chat there. But yeah, it's been an interesting week. Hope that everybody is well. Nice to see people rocking in. Yeah, I guess I'll jump into the topics in a moment. It is getting cold now that I'm not going out running so much. It's yes, hard to keep the motivation up, but I should do that. Quint Rankin, English spelling is very colorful. Yeah, it's basically, it was already this kind of tortured battle between, you know, Germans and you know, Norse and Celts and everything, and then the French took over England and ran it for a bunch of years. And just when the language was still in the middle of thrashing things out, they invented printing, and everything got frozen in time, with it being a horrible, unsettled mix. It's a terrible. I mean, yeah, it's objectively, grammatically, an insane and horrible language, English, and I feel sorry for anyone who has to learn it. Sorry, Yuri, but I do appreciate those who make the effort, and it is nice to have a lingua franca, and I'm very lucky to have it as a native language. But yes, I do respect people who have to learn it. Hey, we got DJ Sunnyside up there. Hello, beautiful people. Indeed, great to see you. In fact, actually, I should comment as well. I am using a plugin I discovered just for just the way that I like to watch YouTube videos is I have everything, because I pay for YouTube Premium. I basically save videos I want to watch from my subscriptions into my watch later feed. So this has become my MyChan TV app. This is the continuation of that. And yeah, I've got that feed, so it automatically downloads the videos on my phone. So like if I'm out running, I'm not using, like, you know, the internet service. It's already downloaded on the phone, and I just remove it from the playlist, and it deletes the file automatically. So it's a good way to go around. It means I've always got I can listen to anywhere and not draw on my data. I download them all on Wi-Fi. I found a great app the other day that, or not app, it's a Chrome plugin by a Ukrainian chap who I think it's called PopTube, but it basically allows you to sort your YouTube playlists by duration, which is what I do manually, and it drives me crazy, and it takes so long. So yeah, I was happy to pay to support that creator. And again, good to see people in Ukraine doing cool things. And it was a thing that helps, something that I do every day that takes a lot of time. So for like, yeah, it was like $3 a month, but it's certainly worth that to save the effort that it takes. So now it's wonderful. I can catch up my YouTube videos, like shortest videos, fastest to watch videos to longest, which I appreciate. It's something that I've been doing. DJ Sunnyside up. I've just got new headphones. Have I heard of Biodynamic? A huge upgrade from your $20 crappy Sony headphones. Biodynamic, I'm not sure I have. I mean, I don't know. I must admit, if I was making a headphone company and I wanted to sound expensive and classy, I'd probably use a name like that. They sound good. I'll look them up, man. I assume, especially if you're using cheap headphones, they must be good. I actually, what I have with me, although I really mainly just use actually AirPods for everything, but I do have the good Sony WMX. What are these? The 1000s, the original one? Oh, let's turn the power off on those. These are noise cancelling, which I use for airplanes. Also, again, I don't use so much, but when I'm making music, I actually use the trusty old Sony cans. The what are these? The Sony MDR7506. These are the original studio. These are like the Technics SL1200s of headphones. These are analog, but they are basically sort of industry standard for most studios and TV studios and whatever. They all have the same. They're actually sold. They're not sold like in shops. You can buy them online wholesale, but they're actually for business use. They're really cool. So that's what I have. I'm sure the Bay Dynamic are cool. I'll have to look them up. Tell me how they are. Hey, Aaron, good to see you. Good to see everybody in here. And don't forget to smash the like button on your way in. Indeed, thank you for the reminder. Because, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing it for. 4 likes at the moment, 13 viewers. Good day. Thanks to everybody for joining, as always. Nice to have people coming in. But, yeah, I can't help but notice the debate or the discussion going on in the chat. It will quickly devolve into AIs writing fanfics for other AIs that humans won't even be able to appreciate. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so, yeah, there's all sorts of science fiction and theoretical discussions that we're about to be flooded with a grey goo of generative AI content that's been generated from other existing web content. And it's going to be hard to find good quality stuff or whatever, which is a theory. But no, what you're talking about is the AIs will actually be reading and appreciating their own fan fiction, and it'll be written for each other rather than us. That's entirely possible. Hey, you know, I welcome our overlords, whatever our AI future bosses find interesting. I will do my best to thoroughly enjoy myself. I think that's the best approach. Throwing peanuts. Good to see everybody in here. So yeah, let's dive into the topics. It's 10:45. Don't have a lot of topics, but some interesting ones anyway. So let's jump in. So first one, yeah, the BBC actually covered this in a lot of different ways. So, you know, as people know, geez, yes, I'm happy. I don't care. I just want to show the article. Decision's been made that basically, since the Fukushima nuclear power plant accident, they've basically needed to keep cooling the nuclear reactor. And so they've been pumping seawater, I believe, mostly, basically through the reactor, as they always do, to sort of keep the temperature down. And however, they've kept all of the water that's been run through the reactor, because of course it melted down, you know, in storage tanks, rather than letting it go out to the ocean as you'd normally do with a normal nuclear power plant. And so what they have done is on site, you know, they now have like too much water to basically, they can't store any more. And there's worries, of course, that it could leak and get into the groundwater and so on. And so, yeah, the plan, well, what they've done with all of this incredible amount, 1 million tons of water, it's kind of an incomprehensible amount of water that's being stored on land in Fukushima at the moment, is they are planning to release it out in the ocean. They've built a big pipe that'll go out to sea and release it. Which is freaking out, of course. Yeah, Japan's neighbors are making a big fuss about it. People are worried. Fishermen, of course, worried about damage to reputation. And of course, BBC, you know, put out a story that Japan to release radioactive water into the ocean. In fairness to Japan, it had a bit of a discussion about this on Twitter during the week. As I understand, the you know, the TEPCO folks and the nuclear power plant operators and the International Atomic Energy Agency have all been supervising the treatment of this water to remove all of the nasty, you know, radioactive stuff, to the point that they can treat the water till it's got everything, until the only radioactive thing left in it is tritium, which is basically like, you know, at an atomic level in the water, from what I understand. And the amounts of tritium that are in the water that is to be released, while they exceed the standards that Japan set for Japan release, they are basically well within the safe guidelines that are used by the IAEA for nuclear power plant coolant water releases worldwide. So basically, the water that's being treated and released is essentially safer than the cooling water that gets released every day from most nuclear power plants worldwide. If you believe the International Atomic Energy Agency, that's supposedly been verifying, and of course, you know, all the players here, and the usual discussion came up around this. Well, I don't trust the Japanese government, and I think I think it's all radioactive. And of course, when you've got the BBC just putting out headlines like Japan's about to emit a whole bunch of radioactive water into the ocean, you know, and the Japanese government's just trying to cover it up. kind of going, a lot of people reacting a little bit like the old 2011, that, even if people say it's safe, I don't trust it. It's all a conspiracy. The Japanese government is lying to us. And so on, just like we had back then. People are free to, again, it's kind of like if you want to not trust, people asked me, do I trust that? And what I responded was that, well, one, I mean, generally, again, the thing about conspiracy theories like the ones around Fukushima and Area 51 and so on, they require the cooperation of so many people that it's just almost unthinkable. And when you think about how many of those people are scientists and, people who live in those areas where the water is going to be released, most of the people who work at the Fukushima site live there. So, it's their own families that are going to be the most affected. So the idea that through all of that, not a single person, would ever say if they were faking the data, that the water's been properly treated, and the water has been treated. So, it doesn't mean it's perfect indeed, but it's as good as coolant water from any other nuclear power plant. Of course, the big difference here being that they're going to release a lot of this at once, more than you typically see in a day from a nuclear power plant. And of course, the fishing industry from Fukushima, not so much worried about contamination itself. They've been convinced about the science, but what they are concerned about is the irrational reputational damage that it's going to cause them, which is pretty much a thing, right? And of course, news stories sensationalizing that Japan's going to pollute the whole Pacific Ocean. So yeah, what's my take on all of this? I've said all my views on this before. New Zealand is a nuclear-free country. We have laws against nuclear weapons, nuclear power, and New Zealand is, basically the anti-nuclear movement. And I would say among that, a lot of anti-nuclear hysteria, is very much at the forefront of the culture of the country that I came from. I'm comfortable living in Japan with nuclear power plants, and there have been multiple accidents, not just, of course, Fukushima, but also Tokaimura, other accidents. And I know New Zealanders who have left Japan because of those accidents. I still think that, long term, I would like for us to have fusion and renewable everything and batteries and so on. But in the meantime, while we are still trying to get our capacity up to do that, I still think when you talk about, civilization ending risks, I think that the carbon emissions from gas and coal and oil power plants that currently still make up like 50% of Japan's power generation mix are more of a danger to the planet than the treated tritium water that's being emitted from that nuclear power plant. I would prefer, of course, that there was no nuclear power plant needed and there were no emissions, but I think that nuclear power plants, even after the Fukushima accident, and I'll repeat, people here already know, I never left Tokyo. I was, we were 500 kilometers away, and, people like, Michio Kaku and those people were on CNN talking about how everybody in Tokyo is going to get cancer and how we're all going to be irradiated. I mean, people were playing up the hysteria, and, it proved to be completely wrong. Again, we still don't know the long-term effects, but, but that said, I never left the country. And yeah, I think that at least while we need it, I still prefer the idea of nuclear power to the carbon. I think that the climate change is a much bigger risk than a nuclear power station risk. And the other thing is, of course, and with this, there's no choice. Honestly, they have to do something with the water, and it's better out at sea than in the groundwater. So, it's unfortunate. People ask me, well, how do I feel about this? I won't stop eating fish. I won't stop, eating delicious deep fried oysters and aji fry. If I get the time and I'm able, I would still go surfing in Ibaraki, right beside Fukushima, with down current. I'm not sure I'd go surfing in Fukushima again, mainly because the beaches I've been there. The best surfing of my life was in Fukushima, but all those beaches were destroyed by the tsunami. But yeah, in my mind, there's the same sort of emissions are going to be in the water as before. So, no. But look, if you're freaked out by it and you believe that the government's having a conspiracy, if you want to shut off and go for the conspiracies and go be safe, then sure, you don't come to Japan. But for me personally, I've made the decision to be comfortable with it and to stay here. And it's fine for people to have other opinions and make other decisions on it. But there again, when you think about the suffering of the Fukushima people from all of the reputational damage, from all of the sort of, the news headlines making money and selling ads on BBC, like headlines like BBC had of radioactive water to be pumped out of Fukushima, and the damage that does to the local communities there that have suffered from this sort of, being treated like a circus act a little bit by the global media. Um, yeah, I think it's unfair and it's irresponsible. As much as we want to say we should follow the science on some things, we quickly, it's easy to actually ignore the science and go into panic mode in news on many things. It's not 100%. You need to be informed, but actually, trust the science. And saying that the science comes from the government so I don't trust it, well, that puts you in the realm of anti-vaxxers, if you ask me. That's 5G and microchips and vaccines and so on. And there are people who believe that. And again, believe what you like, but in the end of the day, I'd prefer to trust the scientists. That's me. So that's where I'm at on that anyway. So into the comments anyway, I see more people rocking in. We've got Abel Rosario. Am I packed yet? I am not packed yet because I don't know about the timing of the trip. I'll have to pack in a hurry. I'm a pretty, wouldn't say minimalist, but I think I can pack up pretty quickly when I need to. So looking forward to that. Good to see you, Abel. We've got, who else we got in here? We've got Kyoto Sonata. Good to see you. What an awful dream. Ones and zeros everywhere. Yeah, there's, I remember a stupid thing from years and years ago. Instead of ones and zeros, we can have ones and twos. That way you can say that 1-1 was a racehorse, and 1-1 was 1-2, and 1-1 1-1 race, and 2-2 1-1 2. Never mind, that's a silly thing. The fly gene. I wasn't a fly gene. People, but I'm perfectly fine with people leaving who weren't comfortable and wanted to leave. But just for what it's worth, I'm speaking from a position that I stayed here, and I really paid attention to the information that was around and tried to educate myself about it. And I'm not just someone saying it's fine. I'm someone who's actually has a stake in this. I live here. It's my own health. It's the fish that I eat. So I have an interest in being informed of this, and I'm not blindly. I don't work for the nuclear lobby or anything like that. I would prefer that we didn't need it, but I've chosen not to follow hysterics and to educate myself. And I understand that it's not ideal, but it's okay. And that's the result of me looking this up. And I'm fine with people making other decisions, including to throw their hands up and leave, like a lot of people did. But yeah, not a fly gene. Anyway, back into the comments. Whoa, Abel Rosario. While my reactor experience is top secret, I can say I'm comfortable enough with staying in Japan. Top secret. That's pretty cool. I have no reactor experience at all. I used to work for renewable energy consulting, and I'm hoping that one day that takes it all over. Or we get fusion reactors. That'd be wonderful too, but that's still going to be a ways off. The old story, I've been repeating this every week, so I won't stay on it too long. But again, because inflation is now the highest it's been in 40 years, 4%, less than most other Western countries, but still pretty high, mainly because of fuel and so on. And because wages are not adjusting to that, it means that wages are continuing to drop in Japan. They're now below those of Korea and Taiwan. Yeah, so there are some positive sort of small signs that wages might move soon, but at the moment they're still not. So Japan is still a nice place to live, but it's not a place that you come to get rich anymore, which it kind of was when I started out here. So yeah. DJ Sunny Side Up. I have been getting into chopped and screwed music these days. You like that? Chopped and screwed music. I'm not sure I understand what you mean. You'll have to share me a link of what you mean by that. I'll be curious to have a look at it. I think I can guess what you might mean. And there is a style of electronic music that's kind of very choppy with lots of samples that I quite like, but you're more into hip hop stuff, so I'm not sure I'm thinking the same thing as you, DJ Sunny Side Up. I'm curious. Please send me a link. I had to laugh at this. Question for people in the chat. Would you try the Unknown Fusion, which apparently is a new way to enjoy pizza? It is a milkshake with bacon in it. I must admit, that picture looks a lot nicer than that picture. Oh, with whipped cream version for more money. Okay. And it's a dessert of cream and bacon in a milkshake. I kind of get it. I mean, you know how there's this thing where a few years ago, when I first saw like salted caramel chocolate, and I was like, why would you put salt into chocolate? And then you realize, oh, salt makes chocolate taste better. Also shortens your life by about 6 months for every bar that you have. And if you enjoy bacon and shortening your life expectancy, I mean, this looks like the drink for you. It does remind me of the onion skit, which I shared years ago, that about Domino's actually being a secret research project to find out the limits of what humans will willingly eat. And this does validate that. But yeah, this looks crazy. I gotta see that. Do they have a calorie count on this? I mean, it doesn't really make any difference when it's all plastic. Oh my God, you actually dip it. Is that what you do? You actually dip? Yeah, that's pretty awful. Although again, if you're into like an Oreos pizza, I guess why wouldn't you have a bacon milkshake with it? So that's a thing in Japan at the moment. Um, yeah, we've got Kerberos Tenchi asking, the current problem with fusion is the worldwide yearly production of deuterium is nearly is enough to power the French fusion plant for 2 months. Solutions being thought of though. Yeah, I've heard it's really accessible if you use the H2O, the sort of water, the type of water, the heavy water that you need for it is plentiful on the moon. That irradiated ice. So again, that could be one of the things that, not just having ice water for ice on the moon, but apparently it would be great for fusion reactors. And actually, I think maybe fusion reactors in space might be good for safety as well. So yeah, solutions coming, but yeah, as much as, I mean, I know that they're worried about the deuterium as well, but the first thing they're worried about right now is actually containing a fusion reaction. But it is exciting times. They are making lots of progress. Aaron, and has anyone seen the John Reeves, Joe Rogan interview? I think you mean Joe Rogan interview about Boneyard, Alaska, where he has found tens of thousands of extinct mastodon short-faced bear. He's found lots of tens of thousands, I assume, bones of all of those animals. That sounds cool. I must admit, so Aaron, and I know that you've been recommending me to check out Joe Rogan, and I kind of didn't watch it because I was worried I'd get hooked on it and they would be too long. But it turns out I've stumbled across Lex Friedman, who I am finding to be amazing, and he's done heaps of Joe Rogan episodes as well. And I can sort of see now, oh, geez, maybe I'll add that. Maybe when I go to America and I've got a bit more time, I'll add Joe Rogan to my list. I do recommend everybody check out Lex Friedman. I am enjoying those a lot, including with people I don't. Well, sometimes there are a few people, when you listen to someone talk for 3 hours, even people you don't expect to like, you do come to like them. Although I will say, I have now watched the Mark Zuckerberg interview and also the Oliver Stone interview and the Noam Chomsky interviews, and I was not won over by any of those. I won't say the people that I dislike that I was won over by or that I found interesting, because I don't want to mischaracterize anything, but generally he speaks to like people involved in tech, including I think the one this week was fusion, and just very smart people doing very cool things, and I find those things very interesting, even though it's a really different style of interview. Joe Rogan, I should probably check it out. So based on your recommendation, you've been recommending me for a while. I think I'll start, but I'll start when I get to America. So yeah. Next topic. Yeah, Japan. The big news this week actually is Japan is, I think it's actually approved at the cabinet level that they will downgrade COVID-19. In terms of, at the moment, it's classified as like a kind of an emergency pandemic, like basically the same as SARS or Ebola or something like that. And they're talking about reclassifying it for Japanese legal purposes as something more akin to influenza. The main reason being that with these particular, if you have an Ebola case in a hospital, in addition to the burden of treating the patients, there is a ton of tracking, data tracking, and administrative work associated with that. You have to contact trace every case. You have to do a bunch of filing reports with prefectural and central government stuff, which means that basically hospitals that are already strained for capacity are breaking, not because of too many patients, but because of the being unable to handle the paperwork and administrative burden associated with all the work associated with having COVID patients. The other thing is also that apparently only certain categories of hospitals are allowed to treat people that have the classification that COVID-19 is. So the idea is that reclassifying it as equivalent to influenza will allow even small and normal hospitals to be able to treat patients. So right now, not all hospitals are even allowed to treat COVID patients, at least in terms of having them on respirators and giving them inpatient care. So I think, while it sounds bad that they're downgrading the category of COVID, and a lot of people reacted negatively to it. I think it actually, big implications for patients' hospitals. It'll just make healthcare more available, and it'll free up resources at hospitals to be able to deal with the pandemic. You might argue that it's a problem that bureaucracy and laws were interfering with treatment of COVID patients in the first place. But it kind of makes sense. It's kind of really for outlier like freak pandemics, which this was in the beginning, and there was no people didn't even know how to treat it, and that's really what it's for. Now there is fairly settled treatment methods. I mean, again, we are having the highest daily death rates we've had since the start of the pandemic. The good news, by the way, on COVID right now is that the numbers in Tokyo are coming down. We seem to be finishing the 8th wave at the moment. I mean, still 5,000 cases a day in Tokyo. However, deaths, of course, daily deaths being a lagging indicator, the deaths are still pretty high. But hopefully those will come down too as cases come down. But to me, again, the fact that this is being done for practical reasons to basically improve accessibility to medical care that's more restricted, both for the types of hospitals that you can get care from, as well as the capacity of those hospitals to be able to handle patients. The fact that this will increase those things, that's a good thing, and that's what it means. So they're not saying that coronavirus is just a cold, or they're not, they're not doing that, but they are, I think, doing something, to recognize, I think now the fact that I think we're kind of stuck with this. I don't know that we're ever going to go to a time. Now, it's been 3 years. In fact, actually, this week marked the 3rd anniversary of the first case of coronavirus in Japan. And remember, Japan in the beginning was one of the fastest countries to act on this. Japan was accused by the WHO of overreacting when it banned travel from China right at the beginning of the pandemic. And when it had these cases, it reacted kind of crazy to them. Although, of course, the thing with the cruise liner was a mess. But yeah, now, I mean, frankly, the idea that we're going to get rid of this, and given how far along we are, that we now have vaccines for it, which don't prevent you getting it, but make it more mild and treatable, I think it's the right step anyway. So that's, again, I'm always sort of taking views, I guess, that are a little bit with the establishment, but it's based on my understanding of what they mean. It's, naturally, I understand the intuition that, for example, releasing radioactive water and downgrading COVID-19 sounds irresponsible. Both they make good headlines and they sound irresponsible. But yeah, when you actually understand what they involve, they do make sense. They do make sense. And, I don't think it means anyone's taking it less seriously. In fact, just the opposite, I think. But of course, it comes off weird that you have to downgrade COVID-19 in order to treat it better. That's weird, but that's the world that we live in. Sadiq Hakanguris, good to have you in here, man, from Florida. Good to have you in here. Thanks for joining. Kubris Tenchi, as Captain Janeway of USS Voyager said, there's coffee in that nebula. In space, deuterium is plenty. Is that I don't know that particular quote from that series. I vaguely remember that series, but there we go. The Princess cruise ships thing was a nightmare situation. Indeed, it was, Aaron. I was never that into the idea of going on a cruise liner to begin with. I mean, there were already horror stories of like people like salmonella and so on going around on cruise ships and turning into, vomit cruises and so on. Even before this, the idea now, I mean, I get it. You're going around in a luxury hotel, seeing the world, but I don't know. The idea of being locked up in a big tin can, I guess it is the closest thing to probably like large scale, far future space tourism. I guess we're going to be in fact, even at a small scale, I suppose that spaceships and space stations are self-contained, shared germ environments. So I guess this is kind of a thing, but geez, I'm not going to be rushing towards that. I've been talking a lot about ChatGPT, of course, since I've been having fun playing with it. And I saw this article and I thought it was kind of funny, so I did share it. And as I've already given my opinions on this pretty much, it'll replace a lot of the work that we do. It will take a lot of I think the first benefits will be for regular people that are, for example, they've just been ripped off on YouTube, and it's not big enough of a deal to go and pay for a lawyer, but at the same time, they do want to know what their legal rights are or something like that. And this is where, hey, do you know a lawyer? I get people who come to me because they hear, they know someone who knows someone who's a lawyer, and they come to me. In that realm, it'll be really useful for people for low-level legal advice. It'll be good enough. It's actually, it's not, you wouldn't go to court based on this. If you actually ever had to do anything that involved real money or actually going to court, yeah, you'd still get a lawyer, because, you'd be an idiot to rely on a chatbot for that. But for basic stuff, it's pretty solid, actually, just for general indications. And it'll say, my looking at it right now, what are the considerations of being, having someone rip off my videos on YouTube? It'll probably give you a 10-point common sense list, and that's what it's pretty good for. And as a lawyer, it'll speed up a lot of, I can already see, it'll probably speed up things like searching for cases. It could be used for, for doing first drafts of documents. But again, you don't want to, and I think this sort of tech is going to make it so that basically when you charge by the hour, your 10-hour, bill where you charge 8 hours for looking up cases for 8 hours, and 1 hour writing a document and 1 hour proofreading it, and that's your 10 hours fees at $100 an hour. That first 8 hours of searching can be done like almost instantly. So it becomes 2 hours of work, and even the drafting can be sped up. And what does that mean? Sure, it means that old-fashioned lawyers are going to charge $1,000 for something that someone that, if I wanted to compete and disrupt them, I could probably charge for 1.5 hours or even less. And I can take on more work. So I think it's going to be the law firms, and there's going to be parallels of this for every industry. Law firms that take advantage of it are going to be able to look after a lot more customers better, cheaper, and are going to succeed. And places that try to ignore it and keep doing what they're doing are going to be too expensive and too inefficient, and they're going to get disrupted. So it's not going to replace lawyers. It's going to supercharge and change the profession. That's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I'm hoping for. And as I was saying at the start of the show, interesting thing, actually. So I told you last week, I think, that I made an app, and it blew my mind that in 10 minutes it helped me make an app. And I tried to replicate that. Well, two things came up. One, I tried to replicate that with more challenging apps, and it didn't work. The other thing was the app which I made actually had my security credentials in the HTML code, which meant it is not secure. It means basically it's like having your password in plain text in the web page on the internet that you just click on inspect in Chrome, and you can see the HTML of any page. And it is a surprisingly common problem that people, lazy developers, don't configure proper security for web pages, and they actually just leave their passwords and credentials in those pages, which means someone who knows how to do that can come and take over your website, or use your server for free and do all sorts of stuff. And so when I realized that my credentials were in the code that this thing told me how to make, and I wanted to make a secure version so I could share it, which was basically what I was making, was a text-to-chat proofreading bot, something that could help me proofread documents. You do pay for every time. It does charge a little bit. AI uses computer power, and you have to pay for that time. So, it's another reason why it's not freely available at the moment, is I'm using it for myself and I'm paying for the time that I'm using. But you want it to basically do that securely. And when I tried to get it to teach me how to properly configure a secure way of connecting to the API, 3 or 4 frustrating days, it didn't work. It wasn't up to speed, and it wasn't clear enough. So I actually ended up going through the regular service documentation. I've actually been building apps myself based off standard documentation, but I still appreciate the fact that ChatGPT is a demonstration of what's coming. And when it all works as it should, it still hasn't shaken me at all. And I actually appreciate the fact that it gave me a little nudge to get started on making a bunch of these sort of demo apps. And I've made like 5 or 6 now, and a lot of them are made now without ChatGPT. I've just gone straight to the standard documentation and so on. But it's actually making me, it's gotten me back into coding, which I haven't done in 20 years, and I'm enjoying it. But just with things like Excel sheets and databases, or just little technical things or whatever, I actually asked it today, how do you do self-hypnosis? Just for relaxation and for, improving habits and stuff like that. It's a good thing. And it gives you a bunch of good instructions and so on. So, it's still pretty cool. I am enjoying it. Couldn't rank it. Serious question. Are you aware of anyone asking ChatGPT about religion, about the existence of God? I'll try to remember to look this up later. I I'm not aware. I haven't done it. Come think of it, I mean, again, it's a pretty good chatbot. I think back in the day, maybe it would have avoided those questions. I don't know. It'd be interesting to ask it. I think when I started out, I'd start asking that. Like, I'd say, "What's your name and how old are you?" And it would say, "I'm not going to answer that." um, yeah, I'm sure you could ask it. Again, it's a well-trained chatbot, so I'm sure it will give you some good sort of thoughts on general religion. I don't know if it would profess. Yeah, which religion are you? Which are the wrong religions? That'd be a question to ask. Uh, which is the correct religion to believe in, and all the other ones are going to hell. Hopefully it'll give something neutral and spiritual and agreeable. But it's pretty political about most of the other topics it answers. So yeah, it'd be interesting to try it out. I'm just using it to help me get stuff done, and I'm finding it very, very interesting anyway. Aaron, random question. What kind of phone do I have? Have I thought about getting a SIM card in the States? You thought JP phones are locked and you can't change the SIMs unless that has changed. That has changed as of like last year. So this year, sorry, last year, I got an iPhone 14 Pro. So yes, the basically the newest, not the large one, the regular size Pro phone, and I should be able to just flip the SIM card in it. In fact, that's what I've been doing when I've been traveling. So yeah, when I'm in the States, I will use my Japan phone with a US SIM card. That is the plan at the moment. So hopefully that'll work. It was a pain when they were locking them, and that was just the phone company screwing everybody. So yeah. Also, yeah, indeed, Kerberos Tenchi points out dual SIM phones are a thing and they're awesome for traveling. iPhones have the eSIMs, although I've never used an eSIM before, and I don't know how they work, but hopefully that'll be a thing. Maybe there'll be a way that I can use an eSIM when I'm in America. That way I could leave both the Japan SIM in and not need a physical SIM, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, at the moment in Japan, you can definitely use now the phones are unlocked and it is a new phone, so it's good. Progress in baby steps. Some more big news this week. It surprised me how big the headphones were for this, but the Jacinda Ardern, the New Zealand Prime Minister, suddenly resigned this week. It's kind of funny. I guess she's gotten a lot of really positive international press coverage, just mainly because she's charismatic. She strikes me as being a good, effective sort of a leader. And I suppose it's a good example, that I think that given that global leaders who are women, particularly, not elderly women or whatever, like, she's quite charismatic. And she's a rare example of a female world leader, which there should logically be more of. So I think that's why she's drawn so much attention. And of course, she's handled not just the pandemic, but also, of course, the mass shooting that we had in a mosque in Christchurch and a couple of other crises. So, and she handled, I think, each of those well. Even though I've said multiple times, I'm glad I've been in Japan through the pandemic rather than New Zealand. While I wouldn't disagree if I was in New Zealand where they had pretty intense lockdowns, like fines and arrests and restriction of movement and all this sort of thing for long periods of time, and they closed the borders on what's a pretty small country. So a lot of people were getting seriously stir crazy, and those people became literally crazy. And the kind of trolls, it's basically been the people who were opposed to the lockdowns and to the mandatory vaccinations and so on in New Zealand that became the sort of trolls that basically harassed her out of office. But yeah, I know both sides of this. I'm personally on the side that I would have got along with it. My family is like that, but I know people who feel like, New Zealand sort of became a kind of a dictatorship under her, that she took away a lot of, rights that were protected under New Zealand's quasi-constitution under the Bill of Rights Act. And she did put in very strong, provisions. And there's a lot of people that feel like she put them in jail, and they are reacting like that. Just like a lot of people who are opposed to lockdown measures in America feel strongly about that. Basically they're the same sort of a thing. So that's the main reason. It's the pressure associated with the backlash from those very extreme and violent and unhinged and often conspiracy theory believing. But at the same time, there's as with all things, there's a kernel of, I can understand what they're thinking to a certain point. I can't agree with, thinking that, vaccines are, some sort of a global conspiracy or the QAnon stuff or anything like that. But, I do think that New Zealand was very heavy-handed with the lockdowns. Again, I think in New Zealand it's probably necessary to do it, otherwise it would have just been pointless. Japan is kind of like, again, while everyone was sort of criticizing Japan's approach, the fact that we've never had a real lockdown. It's all been a socially enforced lockdown. And the nice thing about that is that, yeah, if you have an actual emergency that you have to go out, you don't get stopped by the police and risk a fine and have to explain yourself. You do what you have to do. If you have to go into work, you go into work. Um, if you're a dickhead, you can be a dickhead and go out, but most people act responsibly, so it works without needing more coercion. I think that's the nice thing about living in Japan. But yeah. Look, my in terms of Jacinda, I wouldn't have voted for her. She actually campaigned on policies that I disagreed with. Um, things like basically she opposed free trade. She opposed a lot of the big trade deals that would have gotten more butter from New Zealand to Japan. So I wasn't in favor of her. But that said, I think she handled crises as a good leader, and I respect that. And I think actually she's from the left-wing party in New Zealand, and the prime minister before her. Oh, trying to remember the national prime minister that New Zealand had for a long time before, Paul Key. Is that right, Paul Key? Oh, I've got the name wrong probably, but I thought he was a good prime minister as well. So both sides, we have good prime ministers, and it's a good thing. It's a small country, so I think you have to be nice, reasonably smart, reasonably competent to do the job. So kind of shocking. It surprised me how big headlines it was that she resigned. But at the same time, I totally do understand her resigning, and I hope that the next person's good. But I do think probably the Labour Party is going to tank in the next election, because I think people are just fatigued from it. Was I surprised that she stepped down? Yeah, everybody. Everybody was surprised that she stepped down. In New Zealand, again, I don't follow New Zealand news too closely. I do check the news in New Zealand once a day. But she was talking about preparing for running in the next election, which in New Zealand, you don't run like a president. The whole party runs. It's basically, New Zealand is just like Congress on its own. There's no Senate. There's no executive. So, she was preparing for party elections, for basically Congress elections, and was going to lead, but she just took a break and decided, nah, she's had enough. And, we've had Pulki did the same thing. Former Prime Minister just decided, yep, I've been doing this job for a long time. I'm done. Good luck, everyone. And excused himself. That was kind of a surprise as well, but I kind of respect them doing it that way. So, yeah, I can't believe it's not butter, says Cobra Steji. But yeah, it's kind of funny. I would... The butter thing, it was literally, she was against free trade of butter, and so yeah, I wouldn't have voted her in, but I can rate her highly on her job, on the job that she did. Really nice to do the meetup the other day. I took a few photos of the people who showed up. Great to see Tokyo 503 Edo Inoue. And I realize as I say this now, I'm gonna not remember everyone's handles properly. Let me see if I can open up the photos that I got of people there. Anyway, it was nice. I didn't promote it very much, and like 12 people showed up, which was perfect because it meant that I could actually have a good chat with just about everybody. Not quite every. Some people showed up just before I had to leave, but it was a really nice meetup. Nice people. Had a really good 3 hours, chatting and drinking, and it's a good thing. If I was like popular or good looking, these sort of things would be so unmanageable, like you'd have, I know what it's like when popular people do like meetups, and you actually have to have someone, you have to like form a line and book an event hall, and you sort of talk to everyone for 15 seconds, and I don't know, I'd find that very stressful. But this was nice. You could actually have a nice chat with everybody, say hello. You actually, get to learn a bit about everybody. Everyone's super interesting as well. Like, it's funny, all of the backgrounds, some experienced people, some not so experienced people in Japan. But yeah, it's nice. I felt like I got to know everyone a little bit better and have a proper conversation. So yeah, this is definitely the sort of thing I want to do a little bit when I'm in America as well. But also just nice to see faces after all these years of pandemic and so on as well. It was nice to have a bit of lunch and see some people, and it was a very nice meetup. So yeah, that was a thing. Let me go over here. Boom. Back into that. So thanks to all of those who came out for the meetup. Edo's in there. Oh, in fact, he might have dropped out now. But yeah, Theodore Sharp was not able to go head karate. No problem. It wasn't a handshake event either. I was doing little knuckle punches, not to the face. So that worked out okay. It was great. It was really great. Actually had some cider and some fish and chips. It was quite enjoyable. So yeah, thanks again. And I'll probably do something later in the year. And again, at the moment, just COVID's still not great. So I'm sympathetic to people not coming out, but it was good. It was, I think this crowd, it was just like the chat here. Everyone's on pretty good terms with each other. So yeah. Oh, I see Ado Inoue is in there indeed. So yeah, meet in Vegas, Vegas baby. Yeah, I'm thinking seriously. It might be more towards June, but I'm definitely going to Los Angeles. But yeah, would be a Vegas event. Yeah, maybe you can book out an event hall. And then a Chris Board should definitely do that. But yeah. Actually, this is the final story that I've got on the list. So wow, I'm going to finish on time at the moment. But it's interesting. The government is considering a new category of visa for people with basically 行動人材増やすために在留資格. So basically, there's going to be a new framework where people with particular in-demand skills, and I assume this is going to be things like data science and AI type stuff. But basically, anyone who's from, in fact, actually, they say here, wow. So people who are graduates of, of global top-ranking universities. In fact, 校って言ってる学校, so it could include high schools, but I guess they mean universities, will be eligible for like so instead of a 90-day working visa, they'll be eligible for up to 2 years. And also, if they're doing research where they're getting paid more than $160,000 a year, or to 20 million Japanese yen, after just 1 year, they'll be eligible for permanent residence. For me, it took 10 years to be eligible for permanent residency. So, yeah, if you graduated from a fancy university in America, it looks like you can fast track permanent residency and pretty much get an automatic 2-year, I assume, renewable work visa under the scheme that they're proposing. Just basically to attract sort of top talent, and I guess they're going for Berkeley and MIT and so on for those people to get that sort of knowledge into the country. So yeah, pretty good opportunity if you fall into that category. I think just going for top university, it's a very Japanese mindset, honestly, of just picking people by top ranking universities. Yes, there is somewhat of a correlation between, obviously, if universities and courses that are prestigious and hard to get into, there's a fair presumption that those will be, but you're basically judging the people based on their entrance exam scores rather than their exit exam scores. I think it'd be better to be attracting people that actually have adopted skills and know-how, even if they're in lesser universities. If they're doing interesting, valuable sort of research or have skills, you should treat them the same. You shouldn't just, some schmuck who get, again, you could say someone who has a Harvard philosophy degree is going to get brought in ahead of someone with a data science degree from a lesser university. That feels intuitively wrong if that's what this is. Although it is very Japanese, that the idea that they consider it by university ranking. But yeah, what can we do? Anyway, it is a good opportunity if you're eligible. It'd be a great way to be able to come to Japan. And look at that, I'm 3 minutes early. Not so many topics tonight. So do we get a DJ set tonight? Asked DJ Sunnyside Up. I'm not set up, but you know what? I might be able to do that a little bit. Why don't I do that? I might do that. Did I hear about the giant squid? It was in Hyogo, you think, says Kuros Tenshi. I did hear about the squid. I think, yeah, it was near Osaka or Wakayama or something. I saw it on the concrete. Like, well, there were two, right? There were divers in the water that filmed a giant squid near the surface swimming, which was crazy. And there was another, did it wash up? There was like a dead one on the beach, and it was, yeah, I saw both of those. Kurosenshi, if you win a relatively big amount in the lottery, you'll come visit me in Seattle. Yeah, you'd be most welcome to. It'll be fun. Hopefully I can get there, of course. So fingers crossed on that first. But yeah, oh, let me scroll. Aaron A. Live 1 in a bay. I don't know what that means. You know what? Let me see if I can set up some music. We got 3 minutes early, so I'm going to do that. Osaka, the dead whale. Yes, I did. When they had the dead whale, it's a shame that it died, a big old sperm whale. It was a shame, but it did remind me. There's a famous, if you ever look on YouTube for a video for exploding whale, there was a Oregon 1970. There's a fantastic news story coverage from Oregon, where a huge whale washed up on a beach and they didn't know how to remove it from the beach. So, being America, they decided to load it with dynamite and explode it into little pieces, hoping that the birds would eat it. And yeah, it goes dramatically wrong. and it's wonderfully covered by the newsreader who did it. It's worth looking up. Give me a second. Let me. How should I do this? Okay, I can do this. I'm gonna do some music. Let me. In fact, okay, I'm gonna have to disconnect the middle screen to do this. Unless I can find. Oh, what's here? Does it have battery? It does not. Okay, let's do some music. Middle screen's gonna get shut down, but that is what that is. So boom, stop mirroring. Okay. Oh, hang on a second. I can't use the case that I'm using with this. Hang on a sec, I've got to be able to do this. Oh, I can't do it because the iPad that I can use it with doesn't have battery, and this one has this massive bulky case on it that I can't put my headphones into it properly for my splitter. So I can't do a music set tonight. I'm sorry, I should have been better prepared. But anyway, it was worth a go. I might do this sort of thing more in America, actually, since, again, maybe it's another reason to look forward to that. So I'm looking forward to that. It was a hot mess. The large, giant bits of blubber flying everywhere, damaging cars and endangering lives. I particularly like the line in the news story about no self-respecting seagull would have eaten any of the pieces anyway. It's just an old-fashioned news story where the interviewer is both dignified and extremely judgmental at the same time through the whole story of the folly of the whole exercise. Damn, that is a pain. That's right. So I can't connect the audio from this to the computer right now, and the other one is I could plug it in, but it'd take 2 minutes to charge. So I'll do some music another time. Anyway, I'd love to hear some of the what is it, chop and scratch stuff that you mentioned earlier. Share with me what you're talking about. I'd love to hear it. DJ Sunny Side Up. I hope everyone is okay. 50th anniversary remastered. Oh, is that the one? It's a classic. It's such a good news story. Anyway, everybody, keep cool. Have a good week. Stay safe, of course. I will be here next week. I'll tell you all the plans about going to America, at least that I have. Although, you know what? This time next week will be like the day before the embassy interview. So, yeah, I'll update you. There might not be an update, but other than that, you know, everybody, remember you can follow me on Twitter. I was using Mastodon, but honestly, it's gone a bit quiet over there. So it's really just Twitter for me at the moment. Do love the interaction, really love and appreciate all the people who came out and made the meetup so much fun. So I appreciated that. Definitely want to do more of those. Love to meet all of you sometime. So have a good night. Keep taking care of yourselves. And boom, peace. That's an hour. Also, for those who are watching the recorded version of this, you may or may not have noticed that I've started, it's pretty easy to go through and mark the time codes of the different stories, which basically creates like video chapters, which makes it really easy for navigating the video if you're watching it recorded. I should have said that at the beginning, actually. The last couple of videos I've been doing it. And yeah, I'm going to do it with this one as well. So if you're watching this recorded, check out the video chapters below if you want to go back to any topics. Anyway, have a good week, everybody. Stay safe. Remember to like the video. I do appreciate it, and peace.